proceed our council meetings with a word of prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please feel free to join us if you'd like. Miss Isby, would you word our prayer, please?
Sure. If you'll bow with me. Our gracious Father, we want to thank you for the abundant blessings that you've given us. Lord, we thank you for this city that you've graciously blessed us with. We just ask, Lord, for your wisdom and your guidance as we make decisions that concern this city. We pray for all the decisions we make, and we just pray that they will be pleasing in your sight. And it's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, please call the roll.
Mr. Hawkins?
Here.
Miss Mel?
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Here.
Miss Smith?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Miss Isby?
Here.
Okay, you should have received copies of the February 27th and March 5th, 2018 City Council meetings. Any corrections or changes?
Make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any corrections or changes? All right, all in favor say aye to approve.
Aye.
Aye. I'll say it's this. All in favor? Yes, that's 6-0. All right, next up, I would like to introduce Mr. Will Merriweather and his class from Conway High School, the Agri class. Have I got the wrong teacher, Mr. Merriweather? I'm sorry.
I used to teach. Mr. Reed Kelly is the agri teacher.
Okay, Mr. Kelly. We're glad you guys are here tonight, and I assume y'all are here for the tree board?
Right.
Good, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a report of our standing committee. Mr. Hawkins, we'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on this portion of the agenda is consideration to allow the Conway Tree Board to provide a grant to Conway High School. And who wants to take this?
This is just great. If someone would like to speak and kind of give us just a rough idea what this is about, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, just.
I'm sorry.
Just,
You're Mayor.
No.
Mayor, sorry, Mayor.
I answered Bart. It's okay, just call me Bart.
Sorry. I was in court for 11 hours yesterday with Mr. Jones. So, the tree board. Yeah,
I wasn't on trial. Let's get this straight, okay?
No, he was keeping us all safe.
All right.
The tree board would like to give a grant to the Conway High School Agri Department for their aquaculture program. And we have their teacher, Mr. Kelly, here to give you guys more details about it. It's specifically to grow their catfish, and they need a tank. And the tree board works closely with their program. And so we would like to use some of the funds that the tree board has to give them a grant for roughly $2,000.
Okay.
Well, hello, my name's Reed Kelly. I teach out here at the high school. Come to the tree board asking for the grant. This year, our career center had a budget cut, and we had to, and a lot of our funds went, we actually had such a growth this year with our program that a lot of our funds went to actually building a new classroom to house all the students. This year, aquaculture went up to 2 full class periods with, we actually had to end up turning away about 20 kids. It was so full. And what we're trying to do is, like right now we have 4 round tanks that are about 300 gallons apiece, and those are great. We raise tilapia in them, and tilapia's a great starter fish. But kids that choose to go into aquaculture, they're not going to work with tilapia. What we use, and catfish have to have a square tank in order to survive. If it's round, they'll actually swim along the sides and start rubbing all the skin off their fins first, and then they'll get to where they will start having wounds on their side, which will lead to bacteria infections. So with the square tank, we can actually raise the catfish. Mainly what we're trying to do is we raise catfish for dissections, get to learn about the anatomy of the fish. We have UAPB come, which is, we have a lot of students go to UAPB, so it kind of helps them get a connection when they go down there. So anyway, this, like I said, this tank and this, with this grant would really help us expand our program to an area the kids are really interested in.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
That I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Conway High School Tree Board, the Conway Tree Board providing a grant to the Conway High School. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett,
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
7-0. Thank you. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution to accept the proposal selecting a civil engineer for the design of a street, sidewalk, parking, and drainage improvement along Stephen Morgan Road from Lincoln to Ingram Street for the Community Development Department. And good evening.
Good evening. How are y'all?
Good.
Good. So this is a resolution just for the approval of the civil engineer Crafton and Toll to complete the sidewalk and drainage improvements from Lincoln to Ingram. This, of course, is a part of our 2017 project that was approved in front of the Agape Church.
I'll make a motion for adoption of this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
This will be resolution R 1809. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7-0.
Thanks, Kara.
Thanks, Garrett. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is consideration to approve bids for the construction of a fence on the corner of Harkrider and Bruce Street for the Street and Engineering Department. And hi, Jamie.
Good evening, hi.
What you got for us?
I have request for approval of bids. We received 9 bids on the Harkrider Bruce Street fence. It was a really good turnout. The lowest bid was $15,592. We had estimated this project around $22,25, so it came in under estimate. And we are recommending that you approve United Fence and Construction.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the bid from United. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance appropriating funds. Just say, yeah. Appropriating fund, no, that's not. Ordinance appropriating grant funds received from FEMA for the Street and Engineering Department. And, hi, Miss Candy.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
This ordinance is kind of like the one we had last time. We have received our money from FEMA, and you'll see there that we have several places that we have to spend the money, and the $51,869.46 has already been deposited into the account, and we're going to transfer it to the street department and let them get started on doing the construction on those projects. And a couple of them are, we've already had to do the stuff, and it just reimburses the street department for the work they did.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0.
Make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion?
It's ordinance number
Oh, 1834.
34. Thank you.
Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Pruitt? Aye. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter? Yes. Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
7-0. Thank you. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance appropriating funds for the College Avenue and Country Club Road for the street and engineering services. And Mr. Vincent, I see you up and headed this direction. What do you have for us this evening? What can you tell us?
This is a budget appropriation ordinance, and I request adoption of this attached ordinance in preparation for the upcoming construction of the College and Country Club roundabout. We've asked the Conway Corporation to begin their utility relocation efforts as soon as possible, and we appreciate their effort and cooperation on this project. We anticipate shutting the intersection down during the summer, and it is our aim to have it reopened before school starts, but construction will likely not be completed until the end of the year.
Thank you, Mr.
Stanley, a quick question.
Yeah.
Where are we at on land acquisition for this? And-
We're waiting on appraisals.
Okay.
We've been waiting for about a month now, month and a half. They've been saying for the last couple of weeks they'd have them to us any day.
Say what now?
They've been saying for the last couple of weeks they'd have them to us any day, so hopefully they'll keep that word soon.
Mr. Massey, would you like to speak?
Yes. Good evening. Thank you, ma'am. My name is Brian Mass. I live on the corner of Country Club and College. It has an orange sculpture in the yard, if you haven't seen it by now. I was really concerned that I was even contacted when this project first came aboard. I found out on Facebook, by Twitter, and when I saw the photograph of the initial plans for this roundabout, it really upset me that no one contacted me about my property and the amount of property they're going to take from me without even asking or getting my consideration. I've seen the second drawing. The mayor and I was at the reception at the governor's mansion today. He told me it's going to be a little bit smaller now, unless my property is going to be impacted. But I'm still concerned about the shutting down over the summer, the time of construction is going to take place. And it really bothered me that I wasn't involved in this process at all until I had to find out about it by Facebook. And that was why the city didn't contact me as a landowner, as a taxpayer of the city about that.
And I apologize for that, Mr. Massey. I do. Do you, Finley, can you explain, Mr. Massey, the size difference in this roundabout and the others?
We contracting the property owner.
So the plan for the roundabout is on the website. This is actually a mini roundabout. It's planned to be the first mini roundabout in central Arkansas and the second mini roundabout in Arkansas. Typical roundabout, a single lane roundabout typically is about 150 feet in diameter. College in Salem, for instance, which is a double, is about 180-foot diameter. This one, I believe, is 80 feet in diameter, so it's much smaller. And it, on your property, it fits within the existing right-of-way.
Can I ask why the roundabout? I understand the roundabouts were mainly for more traffic, maintenance, less maintenance than traffic lights. There's never been a traffic light there at all, as far as I can remember.
faster. That really has not much to do with traffic lights.
Traffic maintenance at all?
It moves traffic faster, Mr. Massey, and it's safer than an intersection as well.
Yeah, I witnessed a couple of accidents on that intersection, so I
Yeah.
know. Well, I appreciate the explanation and thank you for your time. Oh, one other question. The amount of land that you guys are considering taking, I've got to move my sprinkler system. It's on there, it's right there in that way. Who did I talk to about that?
I think that would be included, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
in the
we'll
cost?
take
It
care
will
of that.
be.
That didn't exist here.
There won't be any cost to you on moving that.
I put that sprinkler in about 25 years ago.
It still works.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, so they're gonna compensate us, or you're gonna pay for directly to the company? or what?
No, generally, any irrigation system that's damaged as a result of the construction activity, we will hire an irrigation contractor to take care of it, regardless of whether or not it's in the right-of-way.
Okay. Or is the city gonna compensate us for our property, or is that what? I don't know.
If it's in the right of way, the street right of way.
No, we won't be, none of the construction activity will affect your property. All of the construction activity is in the existing dedicated right-of-way.
Thank you for your
It
time.
may go into your grass and your
Yeah.
yard, but that's still property the city already owns.
Mr. Massey, we apologize, we did not contact you.
Yes.
We're sorry about
Is
that.
there a process
That's
set
what I
up
was
to
just
notify?
getting
Yeah,
at. We
yeah.
were talking
Should
about.
be.
Yeah.
Well, I guess normally what
Landowners?
happens is that we get appraisals and then we start to contact landowners and
Yeah,
stuff.
so generally, I start contacting landowners. The first step is to get appraisals, but even if I had the appraisals already, I generally don't begin contacting any property owners, whether they're affected or not, until after the council actually appropriates money for it. Until then, until the council appropriates money, it's just my wish, but it's not, there's nothing official that states whether or not the roundabout will be built or not. Now, we could change that process,
No,
but
I think the process is probably legal and right.
It is.
Yeah, I agree with the legal part, but that, me as has a home, I would like to know what's going on around my house. It should be notified.
You know, all of a sudden, somebody showed up, put stakes in my yard.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on? I don't understand.
You should have some kind of
Well,
notification.
I agree. Finley and I can visit about this, and we'll bring something before this council. And I don't disagree with that, Theo.
Because it could
Mr. Jones.
impact the
Four
design.
property
It could
owners
impact the
there.
design at some point.
I think what I was agreeing to was what Finley was saying is that until the council appropriates the money, it's not official.
True.
So I understood that, but I do agree with you too. So we'll work on that.
All right, thank you.
And thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you, Mr. Manson.
Thank you, Mr. Massey. Thank you, Ms. Massey.
Before the roundabout.
Okay, council's back to you guys.
A motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion?
Tell me about this mini roundabout.
yeah, so Obviously, the biggest difference between a single-lane roundabout and a mini roundabout is that it's smaller. What you'll notice that's mostly different about it is that the central island doesn't have any grass in it. It's all pavement. That's what allows it to be smaller. So if a tractor-trailer needs to drive through it, especially the left turn, which would be almost impossible of a roundabout this small, they can drive over, the trailer can traverse over the central island, that's the primary difference. There are some other differences too, but that's the primary one. Primary two, it's smaller and it's got a flush central median.
And how much is that hill coming down?
The hill's gonna come down about 3 to 4 feet in general, it varies.
Any further questions? Mr. Garrett?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
and
Yes,
and
Ms.
it'll
Jones?
move traffic, okay. I mean, it's,
Certainly much better than the stop sign does.
anything is better.
Yes, it would be, this has been difficult to fit in because of the grade. It's hard rock, and a single lane roundabout. Nothing's impossible with enough money, but the impact of a single lane roundabout on adjacent property owners would be, in my opinion, not worth the advantage that it would provide over a mini roundabout. The hill is already, drivers are already accustomed to low speed on that hill. I haven't run the numbers, but I'm fully confident that it will move traffic sufficiently.
Now, I got a question. You said a truck can drive over. You just talking about driving on the edge, aren't you?
No, the center island is all concrete.
Okay.
There's no grass there at all.
Okay.
So a truck would treat it almost like a traditional intersection. As a matter of fact, in our subdivision ordinance now requires that the radii for a normal intersection be 28 feet. I think these are 40-foot radii on the corners. So it's really not a whole lot bigger than just a regular collector or arterial intersection, except that we've made it a little bit bigger to put a circle in the middle.
The circle's gonna be raised or not raised?
It will be raised, but not a full 6 inches. It'll be raised just like a typical, well, not like a typical curve, but just like a typical truck apron is. Either a 2-inch lip, or probably what we'll do is we'll use the same curb profile that the state used on Dave Ward, which is a 2-foot wide curb and gutter section, and the back half of that is a 4-inch rise over a foot. So it's pretty gentle.
I got another question.
Yes, sir.
What's to stop a regular person from driving over if it's not gonna be a
Nothing.
deterrent? Common sense, I deal with common sense. I'm just saying, if you don't have nothing to keep them from driving over it, what's to stop anybody else from driving over?
They can drive over it. These have been studied a lot, and they've been in practice for years in Europe. And as a matter of fact, roundabouts in Europe started not the way roundabouts started here, but they kind of started by just painting a circle in the center of a regular intersection. And that's how they do it in Europe. They just paint a circle in the center of the intersection. Now, Americans are not really comfortable with that, and I completely get that. But Fayetteville's got one, and it operates beautifully. And it's built in a very similar way. I've seen some designers that didn't even raise the center island. The recommendation is to raise it 2 inches. I'll be raising it 4 inches, just to give myself a little bit higher level of comfort. But I've never seen one fail as a result of somebody misunderstanding it. Now, failure to yield is a problem with all roundabouts, but generally that's a misunderstanding just about how a roundabout generally works, not about a mini specifically. And we could consider a single lane roundabout. We could, and if that's what the council wants to do, I could consider
I'm
it.
just curious, when you said drive over the center, I know you say it's common sense, but I deal with people who don't have common sense. And everybody doesn't have common sense going through the roundabouts now.
It'll have signage that indicates that it's a circular intersection.
Not common sense business right now.
So it'll have approach signage. It'll have a yellow diamond. We've got some of them in town in advance of some. College and Salem might have it, actually. It's a circular intersection sign. And it'll also have splitter islands to indicate that they need to keep right. We could paint it yellow. We haven't worked out all the details yet. We're not, You know, some places paint it yellow, that's kind of ugly, but we can, you know, it makes it perhaps a little bit safer, but we haven't worked out those details.
Well, not instead of.
Any more questions from Mr. Benson?
Yeah.
Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt? Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
7-0. Mr. Hawkins?
I'm gonna wait for just a second,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind. Very good. Mr. Vinson, the next one is also your item. It's
sir.
consideration to approve the bid for the Dave Ward Drive pedestrian overpass for the Street and Engineering Department. You've taken some bids, and for a $3,300,000 job, these are pretty tight bids.
Very tight.
They are.
Yes, sir. The closest I can remember ever in my career on a job this size.
Yeah. I mean, this was really
Yes.
close. I didn't remember it being this expensive, though, when we first started talking about this.
It's changed considerably.
Has it?
It has.
How about an explanation on what's changed,
Well,
what's different?
There have been many meetings with the mayor's office, my office, some councilmen have been involved, UCA in particular, regarding the design. And initially, there were 3 options that were presented, the cheapest being what I think they called the simple design. Essentially, it's a budget design. And the mayor's office, and of course, this was the previous mayor, and UCA agreed to change to the classic design, I think is what it was called.
Collegiate, wasn't it?
Collegiate, was it
Collegiate,
collegiate?
yeah.
It may have been, thank you. UCA has contributed some money to this, $300,000, I believe. And they had a voice in the room in the decision-making process. But that,
Do you know how much of this apple they're wanting to bite?
No.
$300,000 out of $3 million.
could you clarify your question?
How much is UCA gonna participate in this $3,300,000?
$300,000, is my understanding.
Of the 3 million.
$3,360,000.
I remember this thing being $1.5 million. Does anybody else have any memory?
You may, what, Mr. Hawkins?
Remember $1.5 million?
That's where it started. I'm feel pretty confident. Now, this was prior to my taking office, but I do remember it when it started out was at 1.5.
It wasn't 3.3.
It was
I
not,
can
no, and when I
assure you.
saw this, I went, whoa, wait a minute.
I don't think it was either. I think Andy's probably right. I think it was closer to 1.5 or 1.8.
It was less than 2, it was between $1.5 million and $1.8 million, but man, that's memory now working, and that's all it is.
How did we get up to 3.3?
Well, I think even the
From the
simple
design of it?
design was significantly over 2 million. Part of that was, I would say, as a result of the fact that the initial estimate was not developed by an engineer. It was developed by a planner. So when a structural engineer starts to design things, they get more accurate. Sometimes they get cheaper, and often they get more expensive.
And there was more design cost tied to bringing an engineering firm on.
And plus, it
how
was
much
probably a year ago when we talked about it.
How much more was the design cost?
First check I signed was for $300,000.
Whoa.
That sounds right, doesn't it, Finley?
That sounds about right. 10% is typical
engineering?
for engineering costs. In addition, steel prices have gone up. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons that I recommend awarding this rather than rebidding it is because I don't think the prices will get better as a result of steel prices really going up as we speak. But they're significantly higher than they were a year ago, 2 years ago. Steel prices have gone up a lot. There were a lot of things that went into it. Lighting wasn't included in the original design. The truss got more expensive because it's fully enclosed. What else here?
Conway Corp had to move some infrastructure on their end.
Conway Corp having to move a lot of infrastructure. We had to lengthen the span as a result of the floodway. And also, I think maybe as a result of utilities, just a lot of details. Every one of these details just made it more
I
expensive.
sure hope it gets utilized after
Where-
spending
where's this
this
coming
much
from?
money.
Say again?
Where's the company from
The company?
that got the bid?
Manhattan. We've got a gentleman from Manhattan here. Where's your office located?
Our Arkansas operations in Boulevard.
Or if you thought they did overpass too.
The company did the Sixth Street overpass.
So the
It's great.
funding
It
is
looks
coming
great.
from where to pay for it all? The
Good question.
300,000 from
No,
UCA,
A&P and some from Metro Plan.
Metro Plan?
We've gotten, I can't remember the
That's what I
exact
was trying
number
to
now,
find it
but
in
there's
the
over $1
email.
million in grant funding wrapped up in this. It's like $1.5 million. I apologize. I should have brought those numbers with me. And I can email them to the council tonight. I have those numbers on my desk in the office. But we've got, I'm thinking like $1.3 million in grant funding, including what UCA is contributing. I'm sorry, I can't remember the number exactly. And the rest of it is coming from A&P.
Which, what do you think the total amount to the city is, just ballpark?
It'd be about 2 million.
Yeah. I'm thinking it was a little bit less than 2 million after all the grants. Steve's not here, is he? No.
He's
I'm
in
thinking it was,
Barbados or somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah, Wes just brought up a point. That might be the money we were talking about.
That we're
something
remembering,
just
less
short
the
of $2
grant
million.
money.
That could be, because I'm thinking it was between, just slightly less than 2 million, 1.8. Now, the price has gone up, because the original estimate that I remember was, it was around 2.5 million. But I might be remembering it wrong. There have been, I mean, this has been a long-going project. There have been many iterations.
Yeah, it started off just a crosswalk, and it came to an overpass. And like I said, I got in on the tail end of this.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that this is a slightly sloped approach on either end,
It is, yes.
so.
Anybody have a picture of it? Design picture somewhere?
Well, the plans are on my website. There was a schematic included on the website. I think I took that down, but I can email that as well if you'd like to see it.
and the collegiate look, it was so that it would match UCA's look.
Say that again, I didn't hear.
The collegiate look, they chose it because it matched UCA's campus, the look of their campus.
And on the UCA campus to the other side, where are those connecting points?
Well, right now, if you looked at Google Earth, you'd see the Stone Dam Creek Trail
Okay.
just basically stops at Dave Ward. So we're setting this on top of the existing trail. So the existing trail will just go straight up and over the bridge and come back down on the other side.
So
With
it
the
connects over to our turn.
Yes, that's correct. We're also providing a 5-foot pedestrian pathway that somebody could get to Dave Ward in case they wanted to go each way on Dave Ward. But in general, it's going to tie right in with the Stone Dam Creek Trail.
Council, what's your wishes?
Make a motion, we approve this bid.
Do we have a motion and a second to approve this bid? Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7-0. Thank you, Mr.
And
Hawkins.
one final item, Mr. Mayor, and it's back to Mr. Vincent again. Consideration to approve the 2018 asphalt milling and paving program for the Street and Engineering Department. Finley, what you got?
Yes, sir. We opened bids on February 20th at 11 a.m., and we received 2 bids, and they're included in the attached bid summary. I recommend award of this project to the lowest bidder for each area, as shown in the bid summary, with the understanding that streets or extents, as well as total costs of these areas may change slightly based on costs associated with additional repair work that may be required prior to paving. It should be noted, it should be noted that the Conway Corporation has requested that paving of the streets listed in the memo included be delayed until 2019 to allow time for utility relocation, and therefore they are removed from the contract award recommendation. Additional projects may be awarded to the bidder with the lowest total costs as calculated using the unit prices provided for the 5 unspecified quantity bid categories at the top. Thank
So
you.
moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the 2018 asphalt milling and paving list. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7-0. Thank you, Mr. Finley. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Next up, we have the Public Service Committee portion of our meeting. First, we have an ordinance appropriating funds received for sponsorship to replace the scoreboards at the Parks and Recreation Department. As we said, Mr. Ibbotson is out of town. This is just a sponsorship through our beverage agreement with Coca-Cola. We will replace the basketball scoreboards at both the Sports Center and the McGee Center.
Make a motion, we waive 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance. I have it as ordinance number 36.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
7-0. Next up, in our Public Safety Committee, we have an ordinance accepting and bids and appropriating funds to refurbish the concrete floors at the kennel area for the Animal Welfare Unit. Ms. Bryce.
Yes, sir, thank you. We received 5 bids for this, and we are asking you to approve Neatcrete that came in at a bid of $25,751. This will be paid out of the spay and neuter fund.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Was there an emergency clause in this, Mr. Garrett?
There is.
Yes.
There is, okay, all right.
I make a motion for the adoption and the emergency clause.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance with emergency clause. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett?
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
And the emergency clause, Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
7-0. Thank you, Ms. Bryce. Our last item is an ordinance appropriating funds for the renovations at the Conway Emergency Operations Center. If you will recall, Candy wrote a grant for us, for the state, and it was approved, and we were all really happy because we were going to get to do some renovations out there. And the state, someone took,
October 2017, the state Supreme Court ruled that all the GF grant funds be returned to the Department of Finance and Administration. Well, Central Arkansas Planning and Development District appealed, and Jack and Jamie and I went to Judge Piazza's courtroom, and he upheld the state Supreme Court ruling, and all GIF grants were ordered returned to DF&A. So we were, us, Cabot, there were several cities in there with us, and it was just done. He, upheld their thing, and we came back and we thought, God, this was one that needed it so bad, and so that's what we're here tonight to see if that is something that y'all think we can do.
and county judge said that he will split the cost with us.
Yes.
And as you all know, we've had this discussion several times. That is a really tough job. It's a hard job, and it's kind of a bleak building. It doesn't have any natural lighting, and it's not been updated since the city opened it. And so it'll bring more light. We're not going to be able to bring in any natural light, but they're going to have better lighting in it. They're going to put some brighter colors in it. They're going to remodel the break room, and they're going to put an arbor with a place to sit outside so they can actually get outside the building in pretty weather and take a break.
And
So,
chairs.
Yeah, and chairs. And some folks have questioned the price of those chairs because they're about $2,000 a piece, but they're a specially designed chair for that type of work. The chairs that they have in there now have lasted, 15 years now? Yeah. So, yes, they're very expensive chairs up front, but they have a very specific task, and they last a long time. So,
What is our portion, the city's part, for us to split with the county and all?
58,816 is the total, so we're looking at 25,
Yeah.
29,
Yeah.
4.
Okay. I make a motion, we waive the readings.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance along with the emergency clause. And I have it as ordinance number 38.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance with the emergency clause. Any further discussion?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
It's nothing big. How long you think will it be in a downtime for this?
Oh, PSAPs, the operation of the center? No, sir, they're gonna be able to do the work while they're running. That's a good question, though. It's important. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
The Mercy Clause, Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel? Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt? Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
7-0. That's all we have on the agenda tonight. Mr. Bell and I did go to Little Rock today. They had the opening of the Gene Hatfield Artist in Residence at the Governor's Mansion. If you get a chance to go down there, it's worth going to see. It was good to see some of the Hatfield family and a lot of folks from Conway there. It was a very successful event.
Wow.
With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
We are adjourned.
I said 7:05.
Supper time.
No. You said under. No, I wrote it down.